words. So let's just take an example of what Sana said. So Sana told us that she's come up with a brake which is using recycling plastic. So it's still a brake, but it's made from recycled material. If I understood you correctly, Sana?
Yes, sir. A brake which is like contain the 15 bags is like a recycling procedure. It's a sustainable product and having some characteristic that makes it more better than wood brake. Yeah.
Right. So this is what's important to you. That's what you are describing what you do. Investors are not there yet. They're not interested yet on you or the product. So you need to use different words to get them to that stage when they want to know how you do it. So you may this applies to all of you guys. I'm just using Sana as an example. I can use the same example for all of you guys. You may think about saying something like building material and construction. Billions of bricks are used every year. And a lot of material is also wasted. If there's a way to use the plastic, could be recycled in a way in construction, because that will save, on average, if the construction material could be made slightly cheaper or more durable while solving another problem of plastics, that will be ideal. And it turns out that we have, using some chemistry, we have figured out a way to do exactly that. Bricks made from recycled material, 27% stronger, 11% cheaper. I just made up those numbers, I don't know. But our point is, from an investor point of view, that resonates with them. How you did it, what problem you are trying to solve will become the next thing. When somebody falls in love, then they want to know how. So we need to make it relevant to the audience. So this is one of the things which we're going to touch on today. So I'll give some other example from what Cherry said and I think Jared said, so we can also take those examples and again try to massage the message. But anyway, I'm been a practicing entrepreneur myself, 7-time entrepreneur, and
Naeem, we're seeing sort of all your slides together. Were you wanting to just show a single slide, or?
Yeah, let's fix that problem.
Seeing the, yeah.
Let's go back up here and okay. Let's do this part. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I right now run a company called Telesense. We're in agriculture using IoT and artificial intelligence to preserve grain from spoilage. But I teach various universities. And what we want to talk about is, how do you raise money? What do you need to show to investors for them to bring out the checkbook, and also learn from some other examples. So normally the investor presentation has like 10 topics. Now, what we're doing in Startup Bootcamp, which you guys are not participating, but just to let you know, these are the 5 most important things you need to communicate. That is there a white space? Is there an unmet need? Who has this problem? The other fancy word, market segmentation. The third thing you need to see is, what is the solution and how is it better than alternatives they have? And number 4 is, how will you make money, otherwise known as the business model? And what do you need? And it takes you from what stage to what stage. So these are the 5 most important things you have to convey in the 5 minutes. Now, if you had a normal investor presentation, which will be anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, then there'll be 5 additional topics, these topics, which will need to be conveyed, which is the market size, which means your go-to-market strategy, what channel, what price, what partnerships, how will you promote it, who's the relevant team members, who's missing, what traction you have so far, what are some of the milestones coming up in the next 6, 12, and 18 months, and financial projections. So these things, 5 things on the previous slide, 5 things here, makes a complete investor pitch. Now, by the way, I will be sending a PDF of these slides to Paul, so he may be able to distribute to you guys later. So, like I said, I'm an electrical engineer. I worked for a large company, Honeywell, and then started my first companies. So, last company we sold to Oracle. If you have an iPhone with a fingerprint sensor, we invented that. Apple bought that company eventually. So I've raised a lot of money and I've invested in many companies, so I can answer any question about startup, fundraising, running a company. Just ask me. We're a pretty small group, so you don't have to wait for a good time to ask. Raise your hand, interrupt, and ask the questions as you see fit. And some of these books are available. I'm going to actually send at least one of these books to Paul to give it to you for free. So expect a book and the slides coming your way. But they are all available at namezuffer.com. You can check them out. So this is what I was saying earlier. You need to describe in less than 10 seconds. When people say, what do you do? Many people say, oh, we have come up with this new process, which took 3 years at the university to develop, and it's really cool. Well, that doesn't really help me. What problem are you solving and who has this problem? That's the best way to answer that question. So, Cherry did a pretty good job. It could be that lung cancer is one of the leading diseases, and it's the second largest killer of deaths through cancer. I'm just making this up. I don't know the facts. And 27% of the lung cancer goes undetected. We have come up with a way for an early detection of lung cancer, which is non-invasive. Now, I didn't describe how I do it, but I described the problem we are solving. So something like that, you need to, what problem are you solving? Who has this problem is a way to articulate that. So let's ask Harry Herzberg. Harry asked you at a party, hey, Harry, what are you working on? What's your answer?
Hi, I'm Harry. I'm working on Alerty. A lot of students with ADHD struggle to focus in class, and actually 32% of people with ADHD fail to graduate high school. Alerty helps students with ADHD recognize those important moments in class so they don't fall further behind.
So pretty good job. You talked about the problem you're solving and who has this problem. You didn't talk about how you do it. Great. You also threw in your company's name, which is probably good. You want to get the word out and for them to remember with a catchy name like that. But sometimes the name of your company is not important yet. So you can even say, without going there, if you want to save a couple of seconds, but you did a good job. So appreciate that. And you had some number and statistics in there. That's very good. Anybody else wants to take a shot at describing what do you do? Yeah.
So we are AltLearn, and we are trying to build an end-to-end rehabilitation model for the dementia.
Hold on. I'm looking at a blank screen.
Sorry.
I don't know who's speaking and what the words are coming from. Is it a boy or a girl? Who are you? Turn your camera on, then talk to me.
Yeah, can you see me now?
Yes.
So we are AltLearn, and we are trying to build an end-to-end rehabilitation module for the dementia patients so that we can improve not only the quality of life of the patient, but also their caregivers.
Okay, that's too generic. So go one step deeper, like why and how. What are you? Something attached as a necklace? This is an injection? This is some app? Go one level deeper.
Sure. So we actually have a smart watch that measures vitals and provides reality orientation, along with a tablet module which provides behavioral interventions and games for them.
So this is a good example to discuss. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you didn't finish. Go ahead.
No, I actually don't know how to construct this in 10 seconds. I was just hoping for some pointers here.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm going to do. So this was, you see, this is a good example because what he described was correct. He followed my advice, but it was too high level. So I think I should correct my own self because it needs to be high level from what problem there is, but specific enough that people are intrigued. The whole point of this thing is intrigue them to want to learn more. So you can say, if I was Pradya Sharma, that dementia is a very dangerous, debilitating disease. It hits many people as they get older. What if there was a way to detect the symptoms using something as a watch, and it tells you through an app how you can mitigate that or succeed without succumbing to the disease? We have found a way that even for dementia patients, using something they wear on their body and an app, their life becomes much, much easier. So you're giving a little intrigue, so enough that people are like, yeah, how does it work? What do you mean? Tell me more. That's the whole purpose of this initial elevator pitch, is to intrigue them to want to learn more. So I think you have all the ingredients, just have to cook it. Now, this is not simple. I have to write down many times and practice it to sharpen it, tighten it. My main takeaway from this discussion is it's very tempting to talk about, look at me so pretty, I do this. You want to take outside looking in view. What is the problem you're solving? And is it intriguing enough for want me to stop what I'm doing? I want to learn more. That's the whole point. Because this process of fundraising from any investor is this subtle dance, not unlike dating, very much like dating. When you reveal enough to intrigue the other party to lean in, and you reveal some more, till progressively you fall in love. So investor interaction is very much similar. You want to intrigue them, little mystery, little pullback is good. Too much revelation, too soon, opening the kimono when another person is not ready, not so good. So what you want to do is you want to be ready. And ready means having these 3-4 things. So even in the elevator pitch, there's a 10-second version and a 30-second version. 10 seconds is to intrigue them, 30 seconds is to give them a little bit more. So let me talk about my own company, Telesense. So my 10-second version is grain, once you harvest it, never improves in quality. What if you could predict when will it go, spoilage will happen? What if you can even prevent it? That's what we do. So it tells them what problem I'm solving, but it's kind of like, how the hell can you do that? Then the 30-second version can kick in. So 30-second version will say, using some wireless sensors and monitoring the environmental condition in stored grain and sending the data to the cloud and using some machine learning and artificial intelligence, you can learn a lot. As fans are pumping air through the stored grain in a silo, that carries all the information which we can detect, analyze, and send you alert and text messages about your grain condition. So again, I didn't describe all the details, but enough that there is some more meat here that you may want to learn more. So then you want to able to, second thing you need to have is an executive summary. So normally when you approach the investor, you may have a 1-paragraph email that what you do and what problem are you solving and who has this problem. An executive summary will cover another about 6-7 topics designed to intrigue people to want to learn more. The whole purpose of executive summary is to get a face-to-face meeting. So the executive summary is not, nobody closes the deal on an executive summary. It doesn't have to have all the detail, but enough information to like, wow, that looks interesting. I want to meet with these people. And then when you meet with the people, you have a slide deck. And slide deck also comes in 3 flavors. The 3-slide version is the one, if they say, hey, send me your slides first, you want to send a teaser. Teaser could be 3, 4, 5 slides. It doesn't have all the detail, but it really talks about the problem you're solving and who has this problem. Is it big enough problem? So those 2-3 things is, and team, who's in the team, are they credible? So this is like 3-slide version. The 15-slide version is, which covers all the topics, the 10 topics we talked about earlier. But also I like the 1-slide version. The reason is sometimes you meet somebody and there's no place to have your laptop out. You're in a coffee shop, you're maybe some other place. You want to print out a single slide. The single slide should have enough numbers and details that you can give the whole presentation by putting a piece of paper on the table in the coffee shop and say this, and this, and blah, blah, blah. So the one slide version is very important in case there is no place to present. You whip out a single piece of paper, print it out, and you write on it and you show it to them, you leave it with them. So you want to be ready. And of course, the icebreaker is helpful. So, because they may meet 10, 20 entrepreneurs in a given week. The fact that you looked at their LinkedIn, they looked at their Twitter or Facebook, and you knew that they posted pictures from a vacation to Australia from last month, or they went to school, same school you went to, or something else about them, that's a little icebreaker. So that makes you more memorable than other people they may have talked to. So let me pause here for a second. Is any of this requires any explanation or further detail or disagreement? So please opine. Amanda is giving me a green light.
Sure. Okay, so may I ask?
Abhishek? Abhishek is muted.
Yeah, hi. And many thanks for the insightful details. No, that's really helpful. Just have a quick question, like, because when we pitch to investors, so we see like there are like a lot of sites where they ask you to send across your pitch deck. So what level of details we should send across? Because if the enough details are not there, probably they would reject it because they would think like we don't know about the market or exactly the challenge we are solving. So what type of details is required when you're submitting a pitch deck without meeting the investor at first? So
yeah, that's an important question because many of them ask for that. So there are two buckets of things. One bucket is what problem are we solving? Who are we? Second is how are we solving it? So the first part, is this problem worth solving, should be there. So see, every company, you really have to show 4 things to people for them to get intrigued. So 4 things are, I have found a white space. White space meaning that nobody was serving this well or at all. And we, because of our background, our insight, we realize there's a white space not being well served. Number 2, market size. Is it big enough market? Has enough people have this problem that if you solve it, it could become a sizable company? Or if you're making something for, I don't know, left-handed Vietnamese dentists, that's a pretty small market. So even if you're very successful, like big deal. So the third thing is unit economics. Does this thing on a unit, whatever the unit is, makes money? How profitable is this business? Have you thought about the different costs, the cost of goods sold, your variable cost, your customer acquisition cost? So do the unit economics are attractive? And number 4, financial projection and financial model. How big a company can this become? So these are the 4 things you're trying to convey. So in the deck to send to intrigue them, I'll focus on the first 2. You have found a white space, there's a big enough market, and maybe 1 slide on your approach to solving this problem, but don't have to describe all of the details. That's when you want to meet with them and say, I have a lot more to share with you, but if this resonates with you, let's set up a time to talk, call when I can tell you the rest. So just to repeat my answer, what problem are we solving? Who has this problem? Is there enough people who have this problem? Those 2-3 topics are critical, and maybe 1 slide on your approach. What you're not sharing is financial model. What you're not sharing is all unit economics, business model, whatnot. So this could be 3 slides, this could be 8 slides. It's not 20 slides. And you can say that, we have a lot more to say, but if you like what the problem we're solving and segmentation and market size, then we should talk. And if they still insist, then you can send them a little bit more about your approach to it, like solution. But I will still hold back certain things like financials, and of course, sorry, I didn't mention team. Who's the people is the second most important thing.
Yes,
Look at it
yeah.
from the investor point of view. How do they make a decision to invest in a company? So, every investor will have a different answer, but the short answer is the market dynamics. Any market which is big or expanding, all boats rise with a rising tide. So, and number 2 is team. Number 3 is your fantastic idea, because they know that whatever idea you have is probably going to change 6 times. So your idea is not the most important thing. But if the market is correct, the market is large, and the team is good, they will find a problem to solve. So you're trying to impress them with the market dynamics, market size, the white space, and the quality of team. That is the decision, what intrigues them. Because whatever idea you have, no company has ever become successful with a very original idea they had. So.
No, of course. And on the team size, like the major challenges we are facing, like we are all 3 of them, like we are 3-member team now, all are first-time founders. So we frequently get to learn that, like, as we don't have any entrepreneurial experience first, so the institutional investor specifically are not very keen to onboard. So how we can overcome that challenge?
You welcome the challenge the same way. How did they start in their profession? Everybody starts someplace. So question is, you look at many founders. I mean, I can give famous example of founders of Airbnb, founders of Dropbox. They're all, even Facebook. What entrepreneurial experience did they have? I mean, okay, Facebook, he did have some, but that's an exception. Point is, your answer is, yeah, we don't have entrepreneurial experience, but we are committed, dedicated, and when time comes to scale the company, we'll find the talent missing from us. So it's some kind of a answer, but if they're stuck on that we will not fund you unless you have entrepreneurial experience, then the wrong investor. Move on to the next one. Because a right investor say, is this team committed enough to execute? Are they solving the right problem in a large market? Because they know that if the idea is right and the market is right, whatever is missing from the team could be hired. Money can solve that problem. But the core team is committed, have skills. That's key. So don't get discouraged by those kind of reactions. You're just talking to the wrong person.
Many thanks, Naeem. That's it from my side. Thank you.
So question is what not to do when you talk to investors. And answer is, don't be unnecessarily secretive. Many people are secretive. Many people are afraid that they will, we can't tell them about an idea. What if they run with that idea? They're not signing a non-disclosure agreement. So my point is, the idea itself is usually 10% of your overall success factor. Everybody has an idea. There's hardly any idea which you guys, none of you have, which nobody has thought of. We've heard from 4 people. I've heard more than 2 previous startups saying similar things. So having a new idea is not a big deal. What's big deal is the execution. And what makes it execution is your maniacal commitment, which exceeds the boundary of normal logic, which comes from people who are a bit of a misfit of society. That's what makes the success happen. So are you guys sufficiently misfits of society? Looking at you, I'll say yes. That's a good thing. You gotta be a little crazy. Normal people who can get a good job, they don't start companies. It's that people like us who are misfits of society, people don't understand us, and we have a chip on our shoulder, we start companies and we change the world. Of course, being at too high level, going too much detail, both is correct. So you have to know the right level of not being too vague. See, it's very common for people, especially in Asian countries, to be vague. I talk to people, they're like, what do you do? Oh, I'm in technology. Great, me too. Like what? Oh, yeah, software. Well, what kind of software? This, I'm thinking about it. Web. Like, what the hell? You 3 questions and still don't know what you do. Why be vague? I mean, tell me something like, I'm working on a startup which reduces fraud in commercial banking transactions. Okay, that's information you can work with. So I'm always much more open as part of my introduction what I do. And this is, I found my first customer that way. I was teaching a class like that. And somebody said, what do you do? And I said, more and more employees are walking into buildings with iPhones and iPads, except they cannot connect to corporate servers and cannot access documents. Problem is authentication. We solved that problem. So one of the students said, my wife works for Chevron. She was talking about this. Did you want to talk to her? Yeah, I do. 6 months later, Chevron was my first customer. So this is how, but if you're vague, we're working on some very secretive, then you're not going to have the doors open to you. So you have to be sufficiently open so doors do open when people mention things to you. And of course, don't be boring because nobody wants to hear, some long-winded story. Short Q&A, engage them. Okay, so switching topic. How do you raise money? So, see, the thing is, there are many sources of money. Now, realize all of them have their own motivations. Friends, families, and fools, which is official FFF category, these people, why do they give you money? Are they intrigued with your business model or your go-to-market strategy? No, they don't understand any of that. They do that because they like you. There's something about you they're willing to trust, friends, families, and fools. Then there are, of course, crowdfund sourcing, which could be popular these days, especially if you have some product which is a hardware, which looks intriguing. You can do Kickstarters, you can do Reg A+. But then there are angel investors. Angel investors are usually rich people which have made some money, and some part of their money they're willing to invest to make money, but that's not their only motivation. They also have worked in some industry for a long time. Some guy was in trucking for 20 years. He retired now or whatever. And you have a new idea of trucking. He knows a lot about that domain. So they're interested in you. They also maybe see a younger version of themselves in you. So they want to be, I was like him when I was young. Let's help this young man. So that could be their reason. They have emotional reasons why they want to invest. And they usually are the first source of money. Then there are venture capitalists. These are firms who are investing what? Not their own money, but other people's money. So it's other people's money that they can write bigger checks, but they care about what? They care about traction. What's the proof the dog is eating the dog food? So their reasons are not emotional or less so. They're looking for exit because they have to return the money to their investors. They have a finite time, typically 10 years, in which they have to find companies, invest in companies, grow them, and exit them. Exit means what? Company goes public, float the shares on the stock market so they can sell the shares. Company gets acquired by bigger companies so they can sell the shares. So they are, they don't have time to sit around and admire and collect portion of your profits. That's not their model. They only make money when they can sell their shares. And of course, they're strategic investors. These are companies who invest in other companies. So most companies, like from Facebook, Google, Intel, Citibank, Chevron, they all have venture arm. It's called corporate venture capital. So they are interested in your technology, your channel, whatever. And they are very active. I've taken money from all of these in every round I've done. So question is, who do we go to and when do you go to them? So this gives you a bit of a sense that very early days when you're figuring things out, the first $10,000, $20,000 usually may come from FFF, friends, families, and fools. When you do need a little bit more money, I don't know, from 50,000 to a million, maybe 2 million, that's too small for VCs. This is where you approach angel investors. And once you finally need bigger checks, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million is too big for angel investor. That's when you come into early stage venture capitals. When you need, then there's some VCs which are even late stage VCs. They play a role for writing But when you need $1 billion, that's not when you go to VCs. That's when you go to private equity or public market by floating your shares. So you realize as company goes through certain stages, the source of capital changes based on the stage of the company and the amount being raised. So company, you expect that you start company and the valuation will go straight line like that. It doesn't. That's not how companies' values typically grow. How does the company value grow? It goes like that. You're working hard and have an idea, and finally, a few months later, you have a prototype. Company value jumps. Then you work on it, trying to find who will buy it, many demos, many whatever. Then somebody finally buys it. Company value jumps. The point I'm showing you this thing is, this is how you decide how to raise money. Because you raise money to go from this stage to next stage. Because if you have an idea, how many months before you can have a prototype when you have the second milestone? So you raise enough money to get to the next milestone plus 6 months. Because it takes about 4 to 6 months to raise money. The process just takes that long. So you compute, what is my next de-risking point? How many months do I need to de-risking? That tells you the wrong answer is, oh, we need $500,000. Why? Oh, it's good for a year. Well, that's stupid. What happens after 1 year? You still have no prototype, you have no customer, you haven't de-risked the company, and you have finished $1 million. That doesn't make you more fundable. So you have to think about, what is the next stage I need to take the company when everybody will say, okay, now you have taken some risk out. Now I'm willing to give you money to go to the next stage after that. So you can see you raise money in chunks to pass to the next de-risking point when value inflection happens. That's why first time you raise money from investors, Series A, Series B, Series C. These series mean shares, preferred shares issued to investor with different terms and condition and price, hopefully increasing price. So you hear this term Series A, B, C.
Naeem, there's a question in chat if you want from Rohan.
Okay, let's look at the chat. How to value your company in very early stages? That's good, very good question. Okay, good news. You don't have to. Now, let me say it more directly. You must not. It's like going to a carpet shop in some country you're visiting. They show you the carpet and you are the one who's going to suggest a price. Would that be a smart move? Under no condition will be the right answer. Either you'll be too high or too low. You never do that. The way this whole thing works is the investor, a venture capitalist, has to give you a price, company valuation, and you pretend to be shocked and dismayed. And how could it be so low? So that's a normal dance you have to do. But do not, under any condition, try to guess, put a price on it. Now, the question which comes up is, well, what if I'm not dealing with a VC? What if I'm dealing with an angel investor, my rich uncle? He doesn't know. That's true. That's why you do not price the company. There are 2 ways of raising money. 2 ways. One is called a priced round. When we come up with a valuation of the company and the share price. And the second is a note. Note means, I don't know what the value of the company is, but here is some money. It's kind of a loan, which will convert into share when some investor, like a venture capitalist, and you agree on a price. So you never, unlike Shark Tank, or whatever Dragon's Den is called in UK, those are very misleading. People say, I'll give you 10% of my company for $200,000. No, nobody ever does that. Don't ever even try. It's going to look like you're naive and clueless. It's their job to come up with a valuation, and I can go over how they come up with it. And your job is like, come on, guys, let's be more realistic. So that's a dance you have to do. So. Yeah, Cherry, I'm coming to that topic in my next 3 slides, so hang on. So other thing you need is a financial model. Financial model is sort of how big a company can this be? Now, investors know that you don't know what will be your expenses in 5 years later, or what will be the price market will accept 4 years later. But what they want to see is, are you smart enough to make reasonable assumption to come up with a business model so you know how to run a company? Your numbers don't have to be accurate. Let me say that again. Your numbers don't have to be accurate. Your numbers have to be reasonable. It's a test that can you rationally, cogently think how many, and I teach a whole class on how to build a financial model, but short summary is, you look at who do you need to hire in first year and maybe second year, because your salaries of those people is the biggest expense you have. And so you first year, maybe second year, you could be much more precise. Who do you need? How much money you need, and how much revenue, if any, can you get? Year 4, 5, and 6 are projections based on commonly used practices. You want to show that company is big enough to justify investment. After 5 years, you're going to be an $8 million company. Big whoop-de-doo. I'll wait for somebody else who has a bigger vision, who can build a $50, $100 million company. That's the one I'm going to invest in. So your range where you want to take the company in year 5 is somewhere between 50 and 100 million approximately. That's the kind of vision they want to see, because otherwise their money which they invest, which they own 10%, 20% of the company, is not going to be worth much. They rather use the energy with a different company, which does have a bigger market, bigger vision, and bigger ability to create a product. So that's why you would do the financial model, and I can teach you separately how to build one. And that tells you, does this business really make sense? Should I even spend my next 2-3 years of my life doing this? So, yeah. So what you want to demonstrate to an investor are these few things. If you can demonstrate in your presentation that you have a strong vision of there's a problem to be solved, and not only you have a strong vision, but you have conviction based on data, the customer interviews you have done, the industry you have worked at, you have a strong conviction, and you really identified an unmet need, and you have a team of small team of A players who are very good at what they do, and you have clarity, who are you going after, who needs this, and you know some of your metrics, then you become very fundable. So this you can see, you cannot go half-hearted, half-prepared to an investor. You need to really know these 5 things, and you should be able to rattle them off like this when you talk with them, because you have memorized them, you live these numbers. If you don't feel comfortable, you can answer these 5 questions, you are not investor ready. Then you need to do a little bit more homework so you can rattle them off. So this is what I mean by a team. You know, if you look at a jazz quartet, there's no conductor. Everybody is an expert on their instrument. But when they play together, good music comes out. That's what a good team looks like. Somebody who knows their software, somebody's in good with business development, somebody's good at project management. You come together and that's a good team. The project manager becomes the CEO, and the guy who can do the technology becomes a technology officer, and then you have somebody in business development. So good teams are just people who don't need a lot of instructions. They're good at their own instruments. And then you always have to figure out market segmentation. Yeah, everybody needs you. You know, so let's take the lung cancer detection idea. Yeah, everybody who has lung cancer needs you. You're like, answer would be yeah. My question to Cherry would be, who needs you more? Is it the people who were smokers in their earlier in life? Is it the people who will work in a certain industries? Is it some kind of a population type? Is it something with socioeconomic background? So the answer was, we're going after people who've been working in construction and mining industry. Those are the ones we're focusing on because they have a bigger issue and this could be identified and their union insurance covers something like that. That's our focus. That's a very good clarity. Who are we going after? Because with the payer system and everything else kind of lines up nicely. So you all have to articulate. You're not big enough to approach everybody. If you can figure out who needs you more, then you have limited resources, limited dollars. They could be focused on that segment, much better chance of penetrating the wall. Other thing which you have to get clarity is unit economics. So every industry has some unit. And unit economics is boiling down the profit, the revenue, the expense per unit. And that's a good way to compare various similar business. So for example, hospitals go by per bed. It's a, let's say it's a 75-bed hospital. So all the expenses they have from doctors' salaries, nurses, building, equipment, they can divide that by 75, say per bed, our cost is $8,500. And because of we specialize in these procedures, we can generate $19,000 per bed per month as our top line. I'm just making this number up. So then allows people to say clearly, okay, if this unit is fairly profitable, good numbers, then we can see how this could be scaled to thousands or millions. But if you don't know your cost per unit, you don't even know what your unit is, you're not investor ready. So figure out what is the unit which makes sense in your business. So, again, for Sanam, is it unit is per brick or per project, per construction site, per what? What is the right unit in which you can compare the costs? Daniel?
Yeah, so what's the per unit cost when you're building a web app or service?
What problem are you solving?
We're doing genetic analysis for depression to inform nutritional interventions.
Okay, so how are you gonna generate the model? You need to have many experts and you're gonna distill their knowledge and you're gonna have an app which is running constantly. So you have your cost involved things like, where is my cursor here? I'm going to use, where is my Zoom? There we go. I was going to use my pen and I'm looking for my pen and I don't see one here. Why don't I see one here? Record reaction site. Okay, the way I think these things are set up, I don't have a pen to write with, so I can just speak to it. Meeting controls. Okay, where are the meeting controls? Why don't I see my meeting controls? So, okay, so let's talk about you are running a service, it's app. So there is some typical fixed cost, which is the server cost, bandwidth, storage, yep. AWS fees, whatnot. These numbers, typically, if you look at 10 companies who do software, you'll see the numbers is cost of goods sold or cost of sales. It's all Yahoo Finance public companies, is between 8 and 22% of revenue. So that's your standard cost of just serving the customer. Look at 10 software publicly traded company, look at cost of sales in the financial statement. Number is 8 to 20. So that's your one cost. That's your variable cost of providing a service. Second cost here would be the experts you need to generate the models on an ongoing basis. And you suppose I'm just making this up, that you on average have 10 experts and your cost is $400,000 a year for paying them and developing the models. So now you're serving after you stabilize, after not first year, but after 3 years, you have 1 million customers. So you divide the two numbers, you can say it's $4 per year is a content cost. Then you may have additional cost of customer acquisition. So how do you get your customers? Well, we do Google ads, okay? Or we hire somebody to go to schools and whatnot, and they hire up. Well, how much do these people cost? Well, it costs typically $2,000 a month. How many customers do they get? Well, they get 5 schools. That means we can get 500 customers. Okay, so then one cost is one number divided by other, $2.30 per customer. So just made up some numbers, but there's some customer acquisition cost, some cost of running the sale, and you can see each customer we generate $33 a month in revenue. All this cost I mentioned, they add up to $11. So we have a $22 per month per customer is our profit, gross profit. We still have to pay for salaries and fixed cost, but that's talking about gross profit. Okay, that's a pretty good model. If you can generate $33 and your cost on a variable cost per customer is $11, we can see that that can scale. So having this number computed and able to describe is what they're looking for. That is, this person has some clue, or he says, huh? What do you mean? I don't know. We haven't started the business yet. Yeah, go back to the back of the class. So idea is this rattling off some numbers because you've thought about running the business tells them you are investor ready.
Great, thank you.
Abhishek.
Yeah, hi. And then, so for us, like we have the business model for first 3 years is license based for the enterprise SaaS platform, and the app is freemium for first 3 years. And then after like 4th year onwards, we plan to introduce a subscription fee. So now when we talk about the business, about the business for the unit economics to the investors for the first 3 years only. So do we only focus of the licensing fee and unit economics of that, or we also need to include what are the future revenue stream we are planning to include and what would be the cost on CAC for them as well? So
the short answer is you want to talk about unit economics as you grow up as a company. So year 5, unit economics, when you have both revenue stream.
Okay.
So this is where we're going. By the way, for the next first 2-3 years, it will be different because we don't gonna do the subscription. So it'll be this number, but that's where we're going. Because they want to imagine if you succeed, how beautiful you look.
Okay.
Hopefully that 5-year version is more attractive than the 3-year version. And you can then describe that first 2-3 years is based on the following factors. It's not as attractive, but having said that, focus on the big picture.
Okay. Okay. So our unit economics should talk about our 5 years vision.
Well, as far when company's stable and healthy, what does it look like?
Yes.
Then you say, okay, that's where we're going, but we're gonna meander this way, and
Yeah.
So in other words, you don't judge a 10-year-old how they look now. You judge them when they're 18 and fully educated. What can they do in this world? That's their potential. That's what we're judging them on. Yeah, next 2-3 years will be, difficult.
Okay. Thank you.
The point is that before you approach investors, what you want to do, you want to, you need to validate all these things, the unmet need, the research. So the thing is, my suggestion is you need to talk to between 50 and 100 potential user of your product or service. And when I say talk to them, it's not about trying to sell your idea. You don't say, look at my bricks, so pretty, it's all plastic, it'll be really good. That's not the conversation. Conversation is, have you thought about this problem? If there's a problem, why haven't you solved it? Where did you look? What was the reason you didn't deploy the alternative? Was it the price? Was the way it looked, the way it smelled, the way it was shaped? Who makes the decision? Who can kill the decision? When the decision is made, how do you purchase something like that? Where do you even look for a solution like this? You notice all the question I just asked has nothing to do with your solution. All the question you need to ask is to understand how these people, buyers, think about the problem. How do they buy? What is important to them? Because then you'll go back and say, can I serve them in a way which will delight them? So market research has everything to understand customers' mindset, buying behavior, purchasing decision. Not about trying to sell your product and say, do you like this? It's like asking somebody says, look at my girlfriend, do you like her? Is anybody going to give an honest answer to that question? Oh, sure, she looks great. You want to distance yourself from that. So, you see that goofy girl sitting over there? What do you think of her? Everybody will have an opinion. So you want to disassociate you from your idea. What if somebody like this, after you ask them this question about, you say, just for trying an idea, what if there was a way to do it this way and somebody wears a little thing and it can tell them what was going on with dementia? Is that stupid or does it make any sense? Oh, that's, they will tell you honestly because it's not your idea. You're distancing yourself. You're testing ideas. Then you will get more honest opinion. How much do you think people pay? Think people pay $100 a month for this? Or is this like too high? Oh, then they can say, no. If I can solve my dementia issue, I'll pay $1,000 a month. Okay, but who will pay? You will pay, or the insurance covers that, or how will that work? So this is the kind of conversation you want to have with your potential users to understand their mindset. That will allow you to then shape your product. So I'm just looking at the chat window. Rohan said, early stage, each of us work everything and contribute everything. Then how do we decide who will be our CEO or CEO? So that's a difficult question to answer. You have to decide, why does somebody want to be CEO or COO or whatever? First of all, you don't need fancy title like so many chiefs. Okay, by legally, you have to have a chief executive officer, so that's legal. I would not use fancy title like chief operating officer, chief financial officer. You're too early, too young to even be credible with the fancy title. It shows that you're being driven by ego. I suggest using product like head of products, head of technology, head of business development. When you get to be, $1 million in revenue, then you can go to fancier title. Don't do that because it looks like your ego is driving you to have this chief this and chief that. B, you just have to ask yourself, who's good at what? I mean, a good team is when people have different complementary skills. I mean, let me just give you an example. If all of you like to play football, soccer, and all 4 of you are good goalkeepers, would 3 goalkeepers make a good football team? I mean, you need somebody who can kick the ball. Somebody's a defensive. We need 1 goalkeeper, but 3 goalkeepers is not a good team. So you need to ask yourself, do we have the right people who are good at something? A CEO is good at project management, calming people down, able to articulate the vision. But it doesn't mean he's the best person also to run the technology or the, make sure that our product is architected correct, which also needs somebody else to go out and talk to customers, get customers, line up what product needs to be built. So there's so many roles in a company. So typically 2 or 3% team doing different things is how it'll be clear what role should we have. So my short answer is, don't pick titles yet. Work together for a few months, see who's good at what, then it'll become more clear who should have what title layer. So eventually, the whole point of fundraising is if you can get your investors' imagination alive, when they get excited and you can see, yeah, how will this, what would it feel like for me to use this product? That's when you got them hooked. So your product is, whether you do that by showing a video, by showing a demo, by showing a presentation, make their imagination come alive. That's when they are interested in you. So I'm going to shift to this next topic, unless one of you have any comment or reaction which you want to discuss. So this is the difficulty. If I ask you guys, what is the price of this thing? Not an easy question to answer because we don't know what it is, like a black box. What's in it? That's how your company looks to investors, especially to angel investors. Okay, VCs have bunch of experts and MBAs sitting in the basement. They can analyze what the company has been sold like that, how much this company can be acquired. So they can compute a price. But angel investors, they don't know how to compute a price. To them, it's a black box. So the way you raise money from these people is we're saying we're going to do a convertible note. Convertible note is a loan secured by the intellectual property of the company. And over time, it will convert into shares when somebody puts a value, when you do a price round. So this is a much quick discussion because only a couple of things to discuss. It's a 1, 2, 3 page document. You can download it online. So not complicated. The problem is it has a couple of problems. One problem is I'm investing you, giving you money now in April. Investors probably will, other VC will come in December. I'm taking more risk. I'm giving you money now. What's my benefit? Why don't I wait till December? And your answer to that is, and the second thing is, what if you become too successful? And this actually happened to Dropbox. Early investor in Dropbox got very little shares because the first time they raised money, it was at like a $30 million pre-money valuation. So somebody who gave $500,000 who was expecting they will get maybe 5% ownership, got like 0.5% ownership. So they were not happy about that. So these are the two problems with convertible note. And the way you solve them is, first one, you say whatever the investors will pay, your price will be less, typically 20% less. So investors want to pay 80 cents a share. The money you're giving me in convertible note will convert 80 cents minus 20% at 64 cents a share. So you'll get more shares. That's your incentive. So you negotiate a discount. Typically it's 20%, but it could be less if you're just about to raise money very shortly. And I mean, it could be 10%. I've even had sometimes even less than that. Or it's going to take longer than a year, then it could be 25% or 30%. Second thing you negotiate is, and that's the Cherry's question was, you can negotiate a cap on valuation. So in case we become too successful, if like Dropbox case, if the investors want to pay $30 million, your price will not exceed X. So what is X? Well, again, you can negotiate, but not uncommon to have number like 3 million, 5 million, 8 million, 10 million. So you're kind of indicating what the company could be worth, but it's not, it's still a low enough number that investors feel comfortable that their price will not exceed X. So what is the right cap to use? Well, it depends on the stage of the company where you are, but some number like, I've seen numbers from 3 million, 5 million, 8 million. I've seen even higher numbers, but that gives some comfort. Now, is it in your benefit to offer a cap? No. You'd rather have no cap, but investors should ask for a cap so they can protect themselves. So if they don't bring up cap, you don't have to bring up cap. They will bring up discount. So you got 20% is addresses the comment you have, or do you want to say anything more, or are you good?
Yeah, that's very clear. Thank you.
So now turns out that convertible note, the word note means a loan. So loan needs to have an interest rate on it. So suddenly $1 million somebody gives you after 1 year can become a 10% interest, $1.1 million. Well, as an entrepreneur, we don't like that because, and then loan is regulated in many industries. So loan becomes a complicated thing. So they invented, Y Combinator invented SAFE. SAFE stands for Simple Agreement for Future Equity. So it's like a convertible note, except it has no interest. It doesn't need to be paid back. It's not a loan. It still has a cap and a discount. So it's even simplified. So you can just go to ycombinator.com and all the documents for SAFE are there. You can download them for free. So this is how you raise money from angel investors. Now you have, of course, venture capitalists. Who are VCs? Okay, Rohan is still saying the thing. In early stage, investor asks regarding the role. How shall we answer? I think answer is, If your biggest conflict among the team members is everybody wants to be a CEO and we cannot agree on the role, don't start a company. Roles should become pretty obvious who's good at what. And if it's not obvious, you're fighting over roles and titles, you guys have bigger problems. Your journey is so much harder. You're going to have many, many more bumps. Don't waste your time and energy. Dump this team, find some other team. So it should not be hard. If all of you are good at technology, then maybe it's not a good team. You need complementary skill. Like I said, 3 goalkeepers don't make a good football team. If this is still not satisfying, you can just give any answer. Rohan will be the CEO. Abhishek will be that technology officer, and Daniel will be the business guy. Then you can swap roles later on if you want, So these roles are not permanently etched in stone. They could be changed. So it's not that critical. Question is, are you working together? Are you can get along with each other? Are you creating value? So who are the VCs and what do they want? These are people who have come as a partnership. They raise money from other people called limited partners. Limited partner could be rich family. It could be a pension fund for a large company. It could be an endowment fund of a university. So there are big pools of money which have to invest and grow the money. So these people's job is to find some promising seeds, give them some fertilizer, give them some water, and hopefully they'll grow up to a plant. Many of these plants die, but some plants actually do grow up to be strong plants, maybe even trees. And their job is, once a tree is grown up, how do you make money on a tree? Well, you don't admire the tree, you actually cut the tree and sell the lumber. That's their whole business model. Find companies, invest in them, give them a little fertilizer, a little sunshine, a little water. When they get to be strong trees, then you sell the company or take it public and sell it to the investors. And that's how they get the money back, because they took money from their limited partners. And they have 10-year cycle to do this. So sometimes they're in a hurry. So they're looking for traction. They want some proof that there really is, people are wanting what you have to sell. The best proof is sales. If you have sales, that's proof people are paying you money. If you don't have sales, they have some pilots going on. People are trying the product. That's the next best thing. Next best thing after that is you have some contract signed, you're ready to start testing. If you don't have that, you have some people who are saying good things about your technology. If you did this, they'll be very interested. So higher up you are, more fundable you become. So you need to be somewhere on this scale of 1 through 6. If you have none of the above, you have 0 traction, don't approach an investor. But higher up you are on this ladder, more fundable you become. So how do VCs fund you? They give you money. What do you give them? Well, you give them shares. They're buying a piece of the company. Just like founders, when you start the company, you buy some shares. This is the company. You write a small check and you buy some shares. Now, shares the investors buy, they are different shares than you have. That's called preferred shares. What you have are common shares. They have preferred shares. What does preferred shares give them? They give them control. They give them right to take the money off the table if company is sold. They give them veto rights. They give them board control. So there are a bunch of rights with preferred, and they insist on having preferred shares. That's what VCs know the story, how companies grow, and this gives them the sufficient control so their economics work out. So don't fight that. That's what's going to happen. So when you start the company, you start with some number of shares. I'm giving you a typical numbers. It could be 100 shares, could be 1,000 shares, could be 1,000,000 shares, but it's not uncommon to start with 2, 3, 4 million shares. And then you set aside a bunch of shares for employee stock option pool. So you can attract other employees, consultant, advisor from that yellow bucket. So it does a typical company has 4 million shares. And then sometime later, you found some investors, you agree on a price, and you sell them shares at a certain price. That's first time you sell them preferred shares. That's called Series A. Then some months later, 1 year later, 2 years later, you have now built the product, you have some customer, you need more money. Then you sell shares to some new set of investors at a different price, and then you call that Series B. So it's not uncommon to keep selling shares to new investors to keep raising money till you're successful and you don't need to raise money anymore. So Series A, Series seed, which even comes before Series A, that is to prove that your business is real. There's some real need for it. So when you know company is real, then you raise Series A to prove that your business is repeatable. It's not just one customer who bought it, but more and more customers want this. Then you raise Series B and C to scale your business. So each series have some expectation which stage of the company you're at. So in this example, let's do a little math to wake you guys up, because I'm losing my audience slowly, so I want to make sure you're engaged. Suppose a company VC put a value of $3 million on your company. Now they're putting in $2 million. What percent do they own? Let's do some math. Let's put that in the chat maybe. Maybe chat just to me, maybe not to everybody. So don't give the answer. Let's see if you guys can are staying with me. Amanda, send it to me. Anybody else? Abhishek. Yes, of course, it's pre-money, because the pre-money means that this is the value of the company. Pre is then they'll come in with their 2 million after that. After they put the 2 million, so 3 million is pre-money. So far, everybody's answer is wrong except Brian. Because here's the deal. The pre-money valuation is before the money came in. What was the value? 3 million. That's what they agreed to. You to shake hand on that. Then they put the new money, the yellow, $2 million. So total became 5 million. That's the post-money valuation. So the investors have 2 out of 5. 2 out of 5 is 40%. So the reason I'm going that is so you guys are comfortable using this terminology, pre-money, post-money, not a big deal. You got it. Because when people even get more comfortable, they even say shortcut. So when Paul Lopez is a VC, he will say things like, oh, they raised 2 on 3. So this is shortcut saying that raised $2 million on a pre-money valuation of 3 million. But they'll say shortcut like 2 on 3. So you can try that on your next cocktail party. You look like you're really in the in crowd. So under any condition, do not try to put a value on your company. It's a trick question. So we talked about this earlier. So like I said, VC's business is they raise money from limited partners over a 10-year period. And the way they make money is they take 2% of that committed capital as their annual management fee. That allows them to pay the salaries, travel first class, all that stuff. But then if company makes money, the gain after returning the money to their limited partners, then they keep 20% of that gain as their profit. So if they have a couple of big hits, it could be very profitable. So this is that was called 2-20 model, 2% management fee, 20% of gain as their money. So that's why the point I'm making is if you take investors' money, especially venture capital, they won't let you have a small exit. They want to have a big exit. They want to swing for the fences. Because they only make money when you have a big exit, big meaning, I don't know, 100 million, 200 million bigger. Otherwise, they don't make enough money. They just wasted a bunch of time. They could have invested in another company. But if you haven't taken VC money, a $10 million exit for you is life-changing. Even if you own like 70% of the company, you have given the rest 30% to other either angel investors or other employees, that's life-changing. So you have to think about that. If you take VC money, then you gotta really look for a big exit, because otherwise it won't be interesting to them. So this is why a typical partner at a VC firm may have 1,000 business plan come her way. She only probably looks at about 100 of them and she listens to the pitch. And those hundreds are based on who referred them. Another entrepreneur, another VC, a professor, a lawyer, somebody they trust. And from those 100 presentations, they may only take a second look on 20 of them, do some diligence, and may only fund 1 or 2 per year per partner. So these numbers, odds are very tough. That's the point. You have to be very ready before you meet with the VCs, because you can so easily be rejected. So how do you meet these people? You research them, the investors. They all have websites. They're angel groups. They're in angel.co. You seek an introduction, somebody who knows them and knows you. And then you send the executive somebody to see, are they interested in the city? Are they want to hear the story? You want to requesting a face-to-face meeting. In that meeting, you try to woo them and intrigue them so they want to have a second meeting. And then it could be multiple meetings like dating. You get comfortable with each other over time. And then at one point that you create some compelling event, some deadline, how you want to bring them to a close when they actually write the check. Because they'll date you for a while to see how are you evolving, how are you tackling, are you with difficulties, are your traction increasing or not? So there's a whole dance which goes on for 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer. So how many people you approach before you give up? Answer is more than you think. I've typically had to approach between 40 and 80 investors and 40 to 80 presentations before I found 1 or 2 people interested. So this is normal. So don't think you talk to 5 investors and nobody showed interest, it's time to give up. No, it's a numbers game. So this is why you start with your homework. It takes many months to get the homework right. All the things we talked about, you have to be ready with 5, 6 items. Then you start requesting meetings, because meetings are always like 2 weeks out. And if they like you, then there's another 2 weeks out. So it takes many months to get enough meetings to get them comfortable. Then if they like what they've seen so far, they're intrigued, then the process of due diligence will start, when they'll send somebody, spend a day with you, or look into everything, all the claims you made. They want to look under the hood, make sure everything is kosher. And if that happens, then maybe a partners meeting when all the partners in the fund approve. And then if you're lucky, you get what's called a term sheet. The term sheet is a non-binding offer to invest. It may be 3, 4, 5, 6 page long. So once you look at that and you can negotiate and agree on a terms and condition, then you sign the term sheet. Now starts the legal diligence. Do you really own your intellectual property? Where are all the non-disclosure agreements? Have everything you said to them was true, or would they find some discrepancies? What about your books? What about, and about 20% of the deals fall in the legal diligence. So you want to be, everything is, you never tell lies. You always show with integrity. And then finally a closing happens when money comes into your pocket. And this whole process takes another 1 to 2 months. So that's why the process can be 3 to 6 months, depending on when you start, how prepared you are. It's not quick. And Hassan said, how long is the pitch? Well, it depends on who are you talking to and what is the interest level. But first pitch is no more than 20 minutes. It could even be 10 to 20 minutes. Remember, first pitch is enough juice there that you know the dynamics of your business. You have found a white space. You know your unit economics. You don't have to talk about every part of your technology. Because if they like the first meeting, there'll be a second meeting and a third meeting and a fourth meeting. So it's a successive revelation. So you never have a more than 20-minute pitch. So between 10 and 20 is a good size. Maybe I typically go for 15. So this is the elevator pitch is that my point is if you have clarity in your head, you don't need to use a lot of words to describe the problem you're solving. So if you approach this way, then you much easy chance you'll connect with the audience. And a good way to show that, use case. Imagine a farmer today. He has 1 million bushel of corn stored in his silo. How does he know is it in good shape? How do you know it doesn't have some spoilage happening right now? So today he has to open the hood and sniff it. If it seems moldy, and if it's moldy, what does he do? Does he drain it? Does he clean it? He's confused. We solve that problem. We give him apps. When he's on his smartphone, he can see the condition, the longevity, the problem is so much easier. You could be in vacation in Florida and still know what's going on in your farm in Minnesota. That's what we do. So this use case helps people understand. Okay, so before we talk about the last topic is what is an investor pitch looks like, let me just pause here and see any comment, reaction, questions. Thank you, Amanda. Nidal, you have a question or are you just giving a thumbs up? Okay.
Yeah, it's correct. Thank you. Yes, usually when to, in my case, when to approach to angels, a lot of angels ask me, okay, can you show me your KPI? And yeah, my question is for my sector, usually in healthcare sector, because in my case, I'm Nidal, and it's a steps, and for exactly what we do, it's a create device for remotely monitoring for patients with multiple sclerosis. But in our case, what is it, the KPI? How we can find the KPI to show for our angels?
So let's talk about what do they mean by KPI. Ask yourself, why are they asking that question? So what the reason they're asking question is that to understand, do you have clarity on what metrics you will be monitoring? How do you know the business is working? How do you know business is doing okay? What do you watch? So let's give an example.
Okay.
Suppose you're driving your car. What do you need to see on the dashboard so you know that your journey is safe? Well, I want to see how much petrol is left in the car because I don't want to suddenly be out of gas.
Yeah.
I also want to know my speed. Am I going too fast? I also want to know what's the temperature of the engine oil so it's not getting overheated. So at least as a minimum, I want to see three things: the temperature, the fuel tank, and the speed.
Okay.
And then it's nice to have how many miles or how many minutes before I reach my destination. That'll be nice to know. So that's my 4 KPIs. So it's not that you have to show them that. First, you have to show them that you even know for your business what are the important key performance indicators you will be watching. What will be on your dashboard? Because if you have no clue what my KPI, then you know we're not ready for the business. You only have an idea and a hallucination.
Okay.
So you may say, and I don't know your business, but you may say our KPIs will be number of mishaps per month for each multiple sclerosis patient. How many times we were able to predict something before it happened. Our prediction ratio should be more than 85%. So we're going to watch that. So far it was 82%, 75%, but we have a new algorithm is going to be more than, so we want to watch that. So these are your KPIs. I don't know your business, I'm making stuff up.
Yeah.
So it's saying that we're watching how many, can we predict how accurate we were, how many people used it, how many minutes per day they used it. These are some of the KPIs. And maybe something about dollars, how many dollars people who subscribe versus unsubscribe to your service. And you want to have a churn rate of less than 8% per month. So we can talk more about, but I'm giving an example. There are 2 or 3 metrics. Again, if you're driving a car, what should be in your dashboard, which we know the car is doing good? What are the 2 or 3 things? It's less than 5, it's more than 2. So more than 2 things, less than 5 things, what will you watch to know the business is doing great? Just talk about that and say, so far we are here, we want to be here. That's the clarity you're trying to convey.
Okay. Ah, good example. Thank you.
So let's talk about, I like to start with team slide early. There's some people say team slide should come at the end. My point is, if you guys have the relevant background, you have a PhD in neuroscience and your sister has multiple sclerosis, well, this means you're very committed to this, then tell me early. Don't tell me after the end of the presentation, by the way, we have a PhD in this thing and you sit in it, because I would have listened to you much more differently if I knew upfront how relevant you are, how committed you are. Then talk about what was the unmet need, and not who you saw it, how you saw it, when you saw it, and what alternatives your people had today. That's your competition. Then what is your solution and what's your unfair advantage? Why now? What changed? Then you talk about your market size. What's your attack plan? How many people have it and which segment of the market are you going to go after? Why that segment was chosen? Then how your customer will see you different from other alternatives they have. That's your positioning. Then you'll talk about your go-to-market strategy, which is what's your price? How will you sell? Online, through retail, through direct sales? What partnerships will help you be visible and promote? Then what is your business model? How do you make money? What is your unit economics? And then what progress have you made in the last 6 months? What are some of the milestones coming up in the next 18 months? That will help them understand what are the milestones they should be watching out for. And then your financial projections and what assumption. How big a company can this become? Typically 5-year income statement. And then your ask. What are you asking? How much are you asking? It takes the company from what stage to what stage. So the what stage to what stage is very important. Just saying we need $1 million. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. $1 million to accomplish what? You can say we need $850,000 to sign up our first 10 customers and at least complete 200 transactions. We believe that's when we feel we have de-risked the company. And by the way, this will take 9 months. Okay, now we have clarity. How much you need, what you need to accomplish with it, and how long does it last? So these are the structure of a typical investor presentation. Slide 0, which I say up there, is my version of the very first slide, when there's nothing on the slide except the company name and the logo. This is the slide when you explain why should they pay attention to you, why should they listen to you? Why did you? This is when you hook them, because there's nothing on the slide to distract them. You can say, 3 years ago, I lost my mother to multiple sclerosis. I'm deeply moved to address this, and I know, having studied it, this could be done, and we have figured out a way. I'm here to raise $500,000 to start that company. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Tell me more. Now that's slide 0. Context. So in other words, you have to tell them which compartment of the brain they should open, where your words will go in. If you don't give them that, what are you? Are you a medical company, a software company, a hardware company, a services company? They don't know. They're not listening to you. They're trying to figure it out. They don't know which compartment of the brain they should go in. So when you're going through all this blah, 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 investors are only trying to compute 3 things. Is there money to be made here? Are these the people who can make me money? And how much money will I make? So everything in their mind is translating to one of those 3 things. So you need to make sure that you know that so you can translate appropriately to things they want to know. So this is why as you go from market research, idea discovery to prototype, to product development, to developing the product, you're raising money in chunks. Pre-seed, seed, then Series A, then B, then C. And that your source of funding also changes based on how much money is being raised. So this is sort of the summary of all the things we discussed in the last hour and a half. This is sort of the summary slide to that whole process. So I can pause here and take your questions, but I just wanted to show you maybe a couple of examples. What I'm teaching you here is typical. This is a company called HubSpot, which for sales automation, marketing automation. Look, they did a seed round in 2006, raised $500,000. Then 1 year later, in 2007, they raised Series A. They raised $5.6 million on a pre-money valuation of $5.6 million. So they gave up 50% of the company here. Then 1 year later, they did a Series B, raised $12 million at the valuation of $23 million. So they gave up another 1/3 of the company. Then 1 year later, they did a Series C, a $16 million was raised at a pre-money of 56. Then there is 21 million at pre-money of 180, and so on, till they have an IPO in 2014, raised $143 million with a pre-money of 634 million. So this is typical. That's how successful companies raise money. And as you raise money, you get diluted, but hopefully your pie is much bigger. So if you have not able to raise money, it's 3 reasons. You don't have traction, you're talking to the wrong investors, or you don't know how to raise. It's very simple. So we can talk about each one of these. And again, wrong investor, meaning that they, this investor only writes big checks. So one of the questions I asked, what is your typical check size? Well, it's $5 million to $20 million. Well, I'm raising $500,000. That's the wrong investor. They may like my story. They may want to hear my story. Second thing is thesis. Each investor have a thesis, what sector they invest in. And sector is based on their background. If they're into healthcare and medical devices, they don't understand manufacturing or software. So unlikely they'll invest in that. And again, availability of fund. What stage of the fund they are at? Do we have any what's called dry powder left? Do we have enough money left to invest? If not, then they listen to your story, but they're the wrong one. So you have to also ask them the question, where are you? Are you ready? So it's not uncommon to go from first meeting to a second meeting to some diligence to a partner meeting, finally getting a term sheet. You may have 20 first meetings, and maybe if you're good with everything, you may get 8 second meetings. From the second meetings, only maybe 4 of them will go to business diligence, and maybe only 2 of them will go to a partner meeting to get 1 term sheet. So this is when you're fully ready and good. It's all numbers game. You have to have sufficient big enough funnel. Yeah. So when you're talking to investors, you want to be arrogantly likable, which means you have confidence. You have thought about your business. You know the business. You have conviction. Yet you're still likable. You don't have to agree with everything they say. You need to have conviction. They look for that. So this is arrogantly likable is something which is investors need to see. So, there's some other simple tips. You want to have 1 message per slide, not too many messages. They all ask the same questions. You can have lots of backup slide, appendix, when you can get to if the question goes there. Give answers directly. Don't give long-winded answers. I always start with a short answer. They may say, well, are you going after, my business, on-farm storage or off-farm storage with the large companies? So what's your strategy? So the wrong answer will be to talk about, well, we looked at all the companies and there was many companies in this area. We have decided that over time our strategy will evolve. And then once we have some great, big enough, we may plan to cover both. That's a vague answer. Short answer is we will focus on-farm storage. These people have more spoilage than anybody else, and they are much more likely to adopt the new technology if they can directly see the benefit. So give a direct answer. And of course, if you're not passionate, if you're not excited, why should they be? So you have to be in your pumped up stage when you get to talk to investors. So I want to make sure that we can stop and have a Q&A, but I've listed here the 28 questions investors ask. So I'm going to send you the slides so you can make sure you have answers for all 28 questions. There's always the same 28 questions. So we have talked about it. Nothing here should surprise you. Instead of going through each one of them in the interest of time, I'll just say any question requires any clarification or just like, yeah. Somebody wants clarification on number 10. Okay, number 10 is how do you sustainably generate leads? What are your KPIs? So key performance indicators, KPIs. We just talked about that. That what will be in your dashboard if you're driving the car? How do you generate lead? This is one of the questions of go-to-market. How will you get leads for your business? Answer could be, okay, is Sana still with us or she's gone? Don't see her. Okay, she's gone. So let's say Cherry. Cherry, you were doing the lung cancer, no?
Yes, I am.
So she may say, how will you deal that they are partnering with the American Lung Association and a activist group, which is anti-tobacco group. So they're going to promote us at something to all their stakeholders. That's how we're going to generate the lead. We're also partnering with the 5 leading hospitals and then or some doctors association. So, or we're going to advertise on certain magazines, or we're going to approach some support groups of people who are dealing with lung issues or so this is the kind of clarity. Then have you thought about it, where the leads will come from? It's going to be all Google ads, or going to be partnerships, they're coming from some conversation. How will you generate leads? That's what they're trying to do. And by the way, in chat, you'll see Paul Lopez has put a link to a form. So please fill that out because we are losing audience. Before we lose you, please fill that out. Now, here's the fun part. You notice the last 5 questions are in different colors. So last 5 questions are trick questions. So those one you want to answer carefully. So what's the answer to question number 24? Brian, what's your answer?
Do that. You're not supposed to give your evaluation. You're not supposed to ask someone else to give you your evaluation.
Which question are you answering?
For 25.
25? Okay. Yeah, 25 as answer is, sir, I'm good at building the companies. You're good at valuing the company. You tell me.
All right.
Yeah, so you want to deflect it back at them. Say, we don't know. We think we have done a lot of work. We think we should be, we know some other company raised money. They raised money at $12 million valuation, but we think we have done a better job. You tell us what's fair. What will be interesting for you to have a significant upside and for us to feel rewarded for contribution we have made. So you want to deflect that. What's the answer to question number 24, Brian?
I'm going with no.
Answer is no?
I would say no.
So that will be a wrong answer.
I would say yes. Yeah.
I think that, again, they're looking for that. Why they are so hung up on being CEO? Is it your ego? Are you going to be a control freak? So your answer could be something like, look, right now, I'm the most committed and capable person. I know what people need. I've been working on it for 6 months. So I'm totally committed to run the company. But a time will come when company has outgrown me or we need to scale, I'll be the first one to find the best person on the planet who can scale the company, because I want to see this idea succeed. So I'll do whatever is necessary. So he's kind of shown some flexibility without resigning.
Yeah, I was taking it as like a question of commitment. Like, we'll kick
Yeah,
you
but
out.
listen,
Like, are you
say
committed to seeing this idea through?
that's not all there is. It's also see how are you egomaniac? Are you a control freak? Are you going to be difficult to deal with? But if you want to need to bring a better person and you refuse to, it causes a bunch of trouble. They're looking for that too.
Okay.
So again, so there's some trick questions here. So like number 28.
Yes.
What will be the answer to number 28? Daniel, what's your answer?
So 28, I think you would say I'm talking to a number of other people, but I'm talking to you right now.
That's a good answer. The answer is same like if your potential prospective girlfriend says, who else are you dating? How do you answer that question? Under no condition you're going to give the names of Jennifer and Susan to her. No good can possibly come out of that. Same thing here. You never tell them who you're talking to, but you say, obviously we're raising money, you're talking to all the right people. So because they will collude with each other, you lose all leverage. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. Okay, so we are at the end. I just had a typical investor pitch. This is not an excellent pitch. It's not the best pitch, but just to give you an idea, I'm not going to read anything, just show you. You start with, this is a slide 0. Slide 0. There's nothing there to distract them, just a tagline. And you basically give a story, a relevance. Who are you? What compartment of the brain they should open? What problem are you solving? So Sana may say, sustainable construction. We're about reducing the pollution in plastic and sustainable construction. That's what I'm here. And I'm here to raise my first $100,000. We already figured it out. Okay, she hasn't told me everything, but I know something construction, something sustainable, I'm opening the right compartment in my brain. Now that she will tell me the rest of the story. Then you say, who are you? Why are you relevant? Who's missing? If you have some advisors, because you may not be from construction, but you have somebody from the construction industry as an advisor. So you look, okay, so they have some technology, they have some advisors, they can do this. Then what is the unmet need? What's the white space? What did you find? How did you find it? What's the use case? Then talk about which segment are you going after? Why this segment? What's good about this segment? What changed now? Why now? Then you talk about competition. What alternatives people have? Is there a hole you discovered, a white space, which nobody's doing well? Then what's your solution? You see, we didn't jump to the solution. We came to the solution after setting the stage of a need, who has the need, we're strong with the alternative. Now your solution makes sense. Then you talk about why us, why now? What's the unfair advantage? Why can you do it and nobody else sitting next to you can do it? What's unique about your background or technology or whatever? Then how do you look different to your users? How do you stand out? What's good about you? Then how will you make money? How much people pay you? How much does it, your unit economics? How much does it profit do you make? And then market segmentation. How do you get your first 10 customers? How do you promote the product? And finally, your financial projection. You show some spreadsheet. How big a company can this be? Then you're asked how much money you're asking for. It takes you from what stage to what stage. What progress have you made in the past? What are some milestones coming up in the future? You can put that in a one page like that. It shows what you're raising, what are the milestones, what the company size, all can fit in a single slide. And what are you asking? How will it last? It'll take you from what stage to what stage. So this is a typical pitch. You can adopt it to your own story, but this is the story. So, if you only have a few minutes, you want to communicate that you really understand the dynamics of your market. It's a large and growing market. You have a unique solution, you have traction, you know exactly next 3 to 5 things you need to do, and you know how much money you need and it'll take you where. That's what you're trying. If you can communicate that, You're doing well. Yeah, so that's our summary. This basically, you become lucky as you more prepared you are, more you practice. Even I, today, I still sometimes alone will practice my presentation. I've given 10,000 presentations, but it's never too late. Sometimes I'm driving in the car, I'm just giving a pitch to myself, timing myself. So that's all I had to say, which still leaves us a little bit of time for anything, final thing you have to say, but fire away. A lot of stuff was thrown in your direction, so I apologize, but Sana, unmute. Still muted. Can't hear you. You're
Sana,
muted.
check your mic. I know you've had the same issue before, so or take it off. One of the two. We're not hearing you. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes,
You
we're
can hear me
hearing you
now?
now. Yeah.
Okay. So, sir, my point is my product is ready. It has been tested in the lab as well. It has been compared with the normal brick. It has the qualities that makes it better than that of a normal brick. Now I'm a bit like confused about things that the question that how would I get the first 10 customers? I'm confused about it because I've met 2 to 3 brokers as well who deal with the construction products, and they agree to my point that they definitely gonna sell it if I would take my product to them. But I'm the first runner up from Pakistan, so I've never got like finances yet. So I need to work on it. These are the things which makes me a bit confused when it comes to the pitch.
Which part is confusing again?
Like finances. How would I get my
finances?
first 10 customers?
Oh, it's a long answer, but there are many resources in Pakistan available to you. Google the word Aspire 100. Google the word Hassan Sayed, or write to me and I'll connect you with those people. There's all kind of resources. Pakistan is thriving right now in startup scene. Number two, you need to get some people, 2 or 3 people from the construction industry as advisors. Then you need to go talk to some people who are in the business of constructing buildings and say, how could we do a pilot? How could we build something? What are the shortcomings? What is missing from this? Why would people not use it? What is the unit economics? Just because you made something doesn't mean you understand the ecosystem, how it is sold. So having 1 or 2 people who are in construction or who have a factory who makes this building material, that will help you articulate in a way, and they will help you connect with people who can use this thing. So if you write to me, I'm from Lahore, I can connect you with the right people. So that's one way I can get you started.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Also, I guess back to you.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know a couple of folks are going to get a little bit of a repeat, but reinforcement, whatever. But in general, thanks. All the best for your entrepreneurial journey. You are all being invited through a separate email to attend TICON Silicon Valley, which will run May 5th through the 7th. In case you want to go check it out right now, type in TICON, TIECON.org. And if you want to register as part of Thai University, I'm going to put a discount code into the chat, and you can, which is all capital letters, Thai Univ, TIEUNIV 2022, and you can attend any part of that. That's typically where we get to meet Naeem in person. He typically runs this kind of boot camp as part of that overall program. Some of you are going to actually do that during the week. There you go, Thai Univ 2022. Anybody connected with Thai University. So do that where it says non-member, and you'll be able to attend any part of it. It has a great lineup of folks, from like the CEO of Pfizer, as an example, editor from Forbes magazine, et cetera, et cetera. So, and people from across the world in the entrepreneurship space. So in that regard, Naeem, thanks so much. I know it's hard to do what you did. I think you showed about 80 slides in your hour 45 minutes, but also took time to answer questions as they came up. So thanks so much. And in that regard, thanks to all of you for spending your Sunday with us and listening to Naeem. All the best with your particular venture. Stay involved with your Thai local team. And if we can help you in any way, our generic email address that'll get answered in 12 to 24 hours is university@thai.org. Again, university@thai.org. Thanks to those of you who filled out the feedback form. I'm hoping a couple more of you will as well. So far, all 8s and 9s on a scale of 10, and very positive feedback in terms of the words to describe the session. So to the extent you can go, here's my ending story. You know, it's like getting a great power drill. If you put it in the garage, it builds nothing. But if you go use it, like the information you received today, you can build great things. So all the best to you.
Excellent, guys.
Naeem, thanks for spending your Saturday, your Sunday, couple of hours with us. I know you've gotten to do this and keep honing it, like you say, over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Naeem. Thanks, Paul. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Sana is in Rawalpindi. It says, okay, sounds good. Okay, we'll stick around for anything else, but looks like most people are jumping off at this point.